The president of Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro, has shocked Trinidad and Tobago and the whole Caribbean by calling the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla Persad-Bissassa, a warmonger. My friends, Maduro said this on Monday after the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago would have reiterated and said again that she pledged support for the U.S. war in the Caribbean. Now, the U.S. has a war ongoing in the Caribbean. Up to 64 persons dead, 16 boats blown up. And this is ongoing, my friends. Ever since Trinidad and Tobago pledged support for the war in the Caribbean, the U.S. war in the Caribbean, and the Prime Minister repeated and said that she continued to support the U.S. war in the Caribbean and she doesn't care what CARICOM says. Maduro has organized protests throughout the country and all parts of Venezuela. They are protesting right now. And Maduro would have said that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, Kamla, has damaged the partnership between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago. Just a few weeks ago, Venezuela suspended the oil and gas agreement that Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago had in the past and named the Prime Minister herself persona non grata, which means that she is not welcome in Venezuela. So if she tried to enter Venezuela, she will be denied entry. And the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago responded and said she doesn't care. She doesn't want to go to Venezuela anyhow. My friends, this is what the United States wants. Chaos in the Caribbean between its partners, because a more divided Caribbean and weaker Caribbean means that they will be dependent more on the United States. So the US can come in and said that they are rescuing the Caribbean and get whatever they want done here in the Caribbean. This is the plan. Now, Venezuela is not backing down from the US show of military force. Just a few months ago, several warships, up to 12 of them, headed from America all the way down to the southern Caribbean. The largest warship in the world is almost in the Caribbean waters. And that warship is owned by the United States of America military. Now, the US, Donald Trump, would have ordered that the US military strike inside of Venezuela. They would have identified the areas so far to be striked. But for some reason, the US seemed to be playing games, because after the news got leaked out that the Trump ordered the strikes in Venezuela, Trump came on and said he didn't do that. He didn't order any strike. So the US seemed to be playing some kind of game in the Caribbean. Why have this massive military buildup if you're not gonna strike, if there will be no war? Is it to scare Venezuela to surrender and scare Maduro into surrendering power? Well, if this is a plan, it's not working. And the United States of America right now is trying to figure out their next move, because the Venezuelan people are clearly not surrendering. And in fact, they would have ordered some Russian military equipment. Just about a few weeks ago, Wagner, which is a Russian mercenary group, which is famous for getting involved in wars and winning wars all around the world. The plane would have landed in Venezuela. The Russian Wagner plane would have landed in Venezuela. And I understand some news from today is that the Russian Navy is on its way to the Caribbean. Now, the US right now is trying to figure out their next move, because now that they would have threatened war and Maduro is not going anywhere, what next? But whatever games are being played in the Caribbean, this is not good for the Caribbean nations, because the Caribbean thrives on tourism. So if there is war in the Caribbean, then obviously there will be no-fly zones and all of that, and tourists are not going to risk flying into an area where there is war. So either way, this is not good news for the Caribbean. Grenada. Remember I said some time ago that the US was pressuring Grenada into allowing a military radar to be placed in Grenada. Well, Grenada's prime minister would have hinted in Parliament that they have not responded to the US request as yet, but he hinted that it's not going to happen. They're not going to agree to it. So it looks like Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda would have refused to allow US radar or military inside of their nation. This leaves Trinidad and Tobago alone in the Caribbean to support the US. Just yesterday I did a video which said that the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago pledged her support again, just in case some persons didn't hear. She reiterated her support for the war in the Caribbean. The Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago also said that she is tired of these fancy speeches and CARICOM talk of, oh, they want the area to remain a zone of peace and all of that. And so therefore she will be looking new partners to partner with Trinidad and Tobago, because the war is necessary to get rid of the drugs. We know that Trinidad and Tobago has a drug problem. That is what the Prime Minister said. So she needs the support of the United States government to eradicate the drug problem. And she would have said that she prefers drug dealers to be killed than regular citizens. But that's all well and good, but how do we know? Every boat that is blown up, how do we know there are drug dealers on board? We just have to listen to what the US says. What if they're fishermen carrying out their trade? Then all the US have to say, oh, it's a drug boat, and that is why they blow it up and 10 people dead, and that's the end of it. So far 64 dead, up to 16 boats blown up, and there's no accountability, no evidence, no investigation, nothing. In fact, the United Nations chief on human rights came out and said that he condemned the US unlawful strikes in the Caribbean. You can't just strike a boat in international waters, blow it up, and then say, oh, you blow up this boat because drugs was headed to the US. How do you know the drugs was headed to the US? Who authorized you to blow up the boat? Where did you get that authority from? When you think about this, this is madness. You can't just go in international waters and blowing up boats and then saying, is drugs on board? This is something the United Nations should vote on. And the chief of human rights in the United Nations said that this act of aggression in the Caribbean is illegal. Will Donald Trump listen to the UN? I don't think so. We see what is happening in Israel. Israel would have found guilty for carrying out war crimes and all of that by the UN, and still the US continue to aid Israel. It's almost like the UN is not there. They don't care what the United Nations says, my friends. Seems like the UN is only made for some persons and not others, some countries and not others. But let me know what you think about this disturbing topic of the chaos in the Caribbean between Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela and the United States of America, Russia and China coming out and condemning the war. Russia would have sent military equipment. China would have said it is illegal and they shouldn't do it. But just the other day, in Nigeria, US threatened to attack Nigeria as well because of religious dispute. According to the US, Muslims are persecuting Christians in Nigeria. Now, this is a country with over 240 million people. This would be all on the news in Nigeria if this was happening in large scale. Perhaps it's happening in some quarters, but there are a lot of people in Nigeria. So it will be a civil war if Muslims and Christians begin to fight each other. It will be a massive civil war. So obviously it's not happening on large scale, but perhaps it's happening. But the Prime Minister or President of Nigeria, Tinubu, would have said that he will visit Washington, D.C. to have talks with America. Because, of course, Donald Trump is not coming to Africa anytime soon. So the president was forced to visit Washington. He hasn't visited us yet, but who knows? Maybe in the coming days he will visit. Donald Trump seems to be just throwing out attacks and threats here and there and hoping to use that as maybe a negotiating tool. We don't know. In other news, the first ever Muslim African born has been elected to be the new mayor of New York City. Maybe the largest city in the world, richest city in the world, New York City. Famous New York, New York. They have a new Muslim African mayor. I don't know. The Republicans are probably very angry right now. But it's a democracy, they said, and New York City is full of immigrants. So maybe they just like the guy and voted him into power. Let's see if he delivers on his many promises to restore New York City to its days of former glory. In other news, it's sad to say that up to over 30 persons were killed in Jamaica during the recent Hurricane Melissa that passed and devastated some parts of Jamaica. Over 30 persons dead. So I am pleading to you, if you can, send your aid to Jamaica, whatever you can send to Jamaica. They're receiving aid right now. Venezuela would have sent over 40,000 tons of supplies so far to Jamaica. Many Caribbean nations, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, St. Kitts and Nevis, would have sent already aid in terms of money or food or material to Jamaica. So what I want is for individuals to start. If you know anybody in Jamaica that is affected, I don't know if they have a donate website set up or a website where you can donate to. As yet, I haven't seen it, but reach out to the Jamaican government and I'm sure somebody will be able to point you in the right direction and donate whatever you can to Jamaica, because I am told, I understand, maybe this hurricane was created as a weapon. That can be conspiracy theory, but it can be true as well. The militaries, the superpowers around the world can do a lot of extraordinary things that we don't know of. Create hurricanes, create earthquakes. We don't know what they're doing. So, don't know if this is the case, but it's a possibility, my friends. If you're watching for the first time, please consider subscribing to this channel. The mission of this channel is to bridge the gap between the African continent and the African diaspora, because we are one people separated by a brutal transatlantic slave trade and colonialism. But we're coming back together stronger than ever before. And you can become a member of this channel and help to support the mission by clicking the link in this description box and sign up to become a channel member. I also have a travel channel, Beyond Travel. Go on over to that. The link is in this description box. Go on over and subscribe to my travel channel as well. But before you do so, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, what are you waiting for? I know you come back every day and you look forward to these wonderful videos. Just subscribe today and this will go a long way in supporting the channel. You can like the video, share it with all your friends and family, comment your thoughts and opinion. All of that, this is supporting this worthy mission of bridging the gap between the African continent and its diaspora, which the Caribbean nations make up the largest block. Right now I'm bringing to you this video from the Caribbean nations. And it's a wonderful, cool day today. The heat is over, my friends. The weather is cool and nice in the Caribbean right now. What are you waiting for? When are you visiting if you're not here? It's paradise on earth. My name is Beyond. Thank you for watching this video. This is Beyond Uncut. And I'll see you tomorrow in the next video. Much love and bye-bye.